But as I said, political offices are generally, I think, understudied. And I think that there are some important questions that we could look at. The first one is, I know that using the term description is normally a bad thing in academic circles. I like to think that you need to walk before you can run. You need to be able to describe things before you can theorize them. And I'm not sure that we really have very much knowledge of, country by country, what is the baseline information on the composition of political offices? How many people work in them? What types of jobs, even what type of job titles do they have? What are the customs governing them? Having tried to look into that in Canada, I've worked within the system. I know what it's like, but it's very difficult to find information, published information, that describes it. And I know I've done sort of a bit of a research and exploratory trip to New Zealand and Australia a few years ago to interview political staffers. And they told me lots of stuff. I couldn't find it documented. Maybe it is, but I couldn't find it. So I think there's lots of work we can do just to establish baseline information on, what do our political offices look like? Again, ministerial offices have had some work done, but I think for parliamentary offices, there's a lot we could do. What type of resources do parliamentarians, do ministers have for their offices? Do they have sufficient resources? I found a 1978 study in Canada talking about, an MP talking about, I've just been given a budget increase and I can hire 4 staffers, two in Ottawa and 2 in my constituency office. Well, right now, at least the last time I checked last summer, MPs had an average of 5.2 staffers with only 1.5 in Ottawa. Now, I don't know if MPs, I think they need more than 1.5 staffers to work in their parliamentary office. Their jobs have increased a lot in terms of their duties and responsibilities in the last 40 years, but their staff capacity hasn't. Is it adequate? If they had more resources, what would they do? Would more staff, allow MPs to resist the tug of centralization that's both on MPs and on ministers? Would it give them more independence from the center? Or would they just sort of fritter those extra resources on more of the same kind of hyper-partisan, staff work that maybe we see? And finally, I'd point to training as something that we need research in, and we need to do much better at. This was something that Jennifer talked about a lot in her 2021 book, Political Management. We expect surgeons to be trained in how to do surgery. We expect lawyers to be trained in law, but political staffers, maybe they help the MP write the law. Maybe they're developing the communications and health messaging during the pandemic, but they probably have no training at all for their job. And she said that practitioners almost unanimously felt this was necessary to improve. My response was almost unanimously. Who would look at it and say that training doesn't need to be improved? Because there is virtually no training. When would it be done? I've tried to run training for political staff. When do you do it? Do you do it right after an election? But in that case, you've got MPs, but they haven't hired staff yet. They're in the process of hiring staff. Do you do it after a month or after 2 months? Do you do it on an ongoing basis? The offices work fast. There's high turnover. I don't know when you'd hire, when you would conduct training, but there is no really good opportunity where the government, for example, or a parliamentary office can just stop everything and say, okay, we're going to take a couple days break. Nothing happened. We're all just going to do training. Who delivers the training? Is it parliamentary officials? Is it public servants? I know lots of public servants who would love to train ministerial staffers, but that probably wouldn't work out very well. Could you bring in academics? Well, political parties tend to be rather suspicious. They tend to be defensive and guarded about who they let train their people, and that's fair. So who would do it? Then what sort of specific content would training be? There's basic information, how to file an expense claim, what are the rules for renting office space, where do you go if you want to hang a picture in your office, In Canada, that you have to have the union do it. You can't actually do that in your own office. There's an inside secret. So the rules are complex. They take time to master. Training on that sort of basic content would be really useful. Some resources, are available, but they're not publicized. So this chap who was talking about his mental health crisis said that he didn't know there was counseling available within the parliamentary environment that he was entitled to. He didn't know that until after he'd had a suicide attempt, because it was there, but nobody knew about it. But other types of specific content, who's going to teach the opposition how to be an opposition staffer, or the government to be a government staffer? There's very different interpretations of what these jobs mean, and it's a political decision as to what's going to be communicated. So that suggests, the content and then who delivers it. It would be hard to find a consensus on that. So in conclusion, I guess I would say that we've gone a long way from yes, minister, to the thick of it. A long way from Frank Weisel, to Malcolm Tucker. To me, a problem is that too many political staffers think that they are Malcolm Tucker nowadays. They think that maybe they get this idea from media, or maybe not, but they think that that's the way the job is supposed to be done. Foul-mouthed, in your face, very abrasive. I know people like that. I cringe from it, but that's often done. So how do we get away from that coarse, aggressive, take no prisoners approach from staffers? I think it's perhaps a symptom and a cause of the coarse, aggressive politics of our age, the social media age, the permanent campaign. Better training and better HR management is not a panacea for that. But I think if we can attract better employees, keep experienced employees, keep capable employees longer, if we can keep them from burning out and doing their jobs, that would be a start. So let me offer that as some initial comments.